Hi, Shalom everyone. I'm going to continue the series where we're exploring the Parshat Vaera, the weekly Torah portion reading. We are in Parshat Vaera this Shabbat coming over here. Just nothing like sharing over some words of Torah over here. Just at a bagel place here in Ramat Chirish Aleph. If anyone is wondering out there and heard a beautiful idea within regards to this week's Torah portion of Vaera. We are in the second Parsha in the book of Bereshit. And which is absolutely phenomenal. And actually, Rabbi David Siva actually brought this down as to point out. Now, the term revolution, this brings to mind firebrand leaders uniting the quashed masses to reclaim their rights from the hands of those who clung, let's say, to feudal privileges, always beginning with an ideology, but concluding with brutality. Whether the revolt took the form of storming the Bastille and the Tuileries Palace in the 1790s, or let's say by the less dramatic, more political means of the Bolsheviks in the 1910s, those who use their voices and say to legitimately holler for bread eventually use their heels to crush the skulls of their adversaries and their, let's say, gutless families who lay defenseless in the dust. Whilst family Antoinette was visually slaughtered by the infamous, let's say, Galantine in the streets of Paris in front of roaring crowds, and the Romanovus was executed mercilessly in a quiet basement in the Siberian capital of Tobolsk. The Jewish revolutionaries treated, let's just say at that point in time, family Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, in a truly remarkable way. A picture, Rabbi David Sipa brings out a picture drawn by the Medrash of how the Jewish nation was oppressed by the Egyptian rulers, is that of a generations long Holocaust. For 210 years, children were indiscriminately snatched from their mothers to be bricked into the walls, whilst others, unfortunately, were absolutely slaughtered in most brutal fashion. Their blood was used to fulfill the bathing whims of the king of Egypt, of Pharaoh. Men and women both suffered incessant, terrible beatings and worked under very bad conditions. They were forced to build cities on quicksand in a very, very brutal manner, all in order to cynically rob their constructors of even the most basic feelings of satisfaction. And then suddenly, from the distant plains, it was, of Midian, all of a sudden who comes? Moshe. He appears, sent by Hashem, to reverse the Jewish people's fortune, the Hebrews' fortune, in any array of the most impressive miracles man obviously has ever witnessed. For obviously the first water supply turned to blood, and frogs in every possible location. Even the most stubbornly, let's say, atheistic Egyptian soon began to appreciate God's agenda, Hashem's agenda, for releasing Am Yisrael, his nation, with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, was evidently underway. Slavery will then abruptly end, and the downtrodden and molested nation will become respected, and there will be that erupt, there will be that fear. There was a revolution will come place indeed over here. Yet, however, Moshe, clearly who was on the offensive, who would have expected him to offer his newly emancipated followers the freedom to express their liberty in an unlimited fashion. And surprisingly, this was not going to happen. Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and said, "Go bring offerings to your God in the land." And Moshe said, "It's not proper to do so, for we will offer the deity of Egypt to Hashem, our God. Behold, if we were," at that point in time, "if we were to slaughter the deity of Egypt in their sight, will they not stone us? We will go on a 3-day journey in the wilderness and bring offerings to Hashem, and we'll bring offerings to Hashem, our God, and He will tell us." It's actually related over in chapter 8, verses 21 to 23. Considering, let's say, the extent that Jews had been bullied all these years, 210 years, remember, why would Moshe worry about upsetting the sensitivities of the enemy? That's a question that Rabbi Sipa poses. Wasn't slaughtering sheep in service of Hashem their legitimate rights that outweighed the fact it happened to be an Egyptian deity? Furthermore, doesn't Moshe, his security concerns, seem sheepish, we could say, when clearly the Jewish nation was under Hashem's great protection? And the great rabbi, the Chatam Sofer, he explains that Moshe was instructed to order the Jews to bring their sacrifices outside of Egypt, not because they were threatened in any way, but rather because Hashem did not want them to flex their newly found muscles against their hosting nation unnecessarily. Yes, after generations of being victim, let's say, their shackles have now been removed, but nevertheless they had no right to now become the aggressor. However tempting that they may have been, liberty over here was restored by Hashem to free them from slavery and to give them opportunity to claim a great compensation, a fair compensation, not for rubbing the noses of their enemies to the ground, by, let's say, slaughtering their faith system in front of their very eyes. Certainly, every act of, let's say, badness or terribleness deserves retribution, and the Egyptian had a huge cheshbon and account to settle. But with Hashem dealing with that, any trampling by the Jewish people on their former antagonist values would have been, let's say, an unethical and a needlessly vengeful response. That's what Rabbi Sipper says. Now, power is a mighty tool. Now, when it's used correctly, it can build edifices of achievement. When used incorrectly, however, it can unleash the dormant malice and lies deep inside every man. A lofty position in society, a bulging portfolio, or stripes on the arm must be used carefully to improve the lives of those around us, not as a means of, let's say, upwardness or snobbishness, or snobbishly trample those who are less fortunate. If we use our assets and our strengths, and it was exclusively used to build and improve and make a better society, a quiet but unstoppable revolution will be underway, capable of storming even the lofty gates of heaven. I heard this actually was brought down on the Shortvort website, and Rabbi David Sipper, who's a rabbi in the city of Bet Shemesh in Israel, wishing you all a fantastic day. I'd like to dedicate this for the Hatzlacha of Torah learning of Moshe ben Yaeleh. I wish you all a phenomenal Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.